to just go over how to use the webinar interface in case not everybody's familiar with that. So, my name is Kristen Fry, and I am the Keystone Stars Manager, one of the Keystone Stars Managers in the Northeast Regional Key. And the counties that I cover are Columbia, Schuylkill, Carbon County, and Lehigh County. And there is my contact information there on the screen, so if you have any questions or need any additional assistance after the webinar, feel free to contact me by email, or you can call me. That's my cell phone number there because I'm not always in the office, so it's always best to reach me by email or on my cell phone. Okay, so this webinar interface that we're using called GoToMeeting is made up of two parts. There's the viewer window where you can kind of just see whatever is on my screen. And then there is the control panel where you can interact throughout the meeting, and there's a little picture of the control panel there. Now, to use the control panel, there's a little orange box with the white arrow, and that can either expand or collapse or minimize your control panel. If you are participating with your audio, you can select if you're going to, I think everybody's pretty much set to be muted. So if there's the option to unmute yourself, you may do that if you would like a chance to speak and say something to the group. But most people prefer to just use the chat feature and or the question feature. If you don't have a chat box area, you should have a question box area where you can post questions, get in on the conversation, and we do want this to be a two-way street. I don't want to just sit and talk at you for 2 hours, so please participate, ask questions, give feedback, and that's what we're here for, is to just kind of feel out what your needs are for moving to a STAR 2. And like I said, you should be able to manage your own muting. And there is a webcam option, but everybody's is set to be off, so you don't have to worry that we can see you through your computer. So you're safe there. Okay, this is just a county map showing the now 18 counties of the Northeast region. And like I said, I cover 4 out of those 18 counties. So I believe today we have some people joining us from other regional keys, which is perfectly fine. You're welcome to stay. I just want to put a disclaimer out there that although every regional key follows the same STAR standards and the same guidance for meeting those standards, that different keys offer different resources, different support systems. Sometimes we look at things a little bit differently. So if you are from a regional key outside of the black line there, then you always want to check with your STARS manager or your STARS specialist to get the clarification that you would need on meeting any of these standards. So some of the things that I might be talking about today, like our TA, our professional development, that kind of thing, you may not have in your region, or you may have different things, or you may have things that we don't have. So always check in with your regional key. Okay, so to just kind of find out who everybody is, I'm going to launch a poll, and if you could just click on what type of child care facility you are. Are you calling or joining us today from a center? Are you a family child care, or are you a group home? Okay, so it looks like we have a mixture of centers and family child care homes. So although the STAR 2 standards are relatively similar, there are some differences, maybe just within the wording or just some certain specific standards that might be a little bit different for family childcare than they are for center. So the worksheet that we're going to go through today is for center. And if there's anything different for family, I will definitely point that out throughout the session. Okay, so the next poll is what star level are you? Are you a star 1 or a star 2 who's just looking to get more information? And if you're something other, you can certainly put that in the chat box or the question box. If you're a no star level, you can add that as well. Okay, so it looks like everybody so far is a star 1. Okay, so that's good. So that means you have a little bit of knowledge on at least the star 1 standards. And, with the standards for every level, as you go higher through the star levels, each new higher star level builds on the previous standards. So at a star 1, you may have a standard about, staff professional development. And, at a star 2, you're going to build on that, so then you're going to add a little bit more professional development. At a star 3, it's even more, and so on. So, as you go through each star level, every standard is going to build upon itself. Okay, and I see somebody, Roberta, said she's working to go to group home. So probably a center looking to become a group. So that's good because the center standards are well, there's center standards, family standards, and group standards. So again, when you're looking to meet with your STAR specialist or STARS manager, you'd want to be sure that you have the right standards for a group then. Okay? All right. So the purpose of our cohort or partnership to meet online is to kind of schedule future sessions to see what your needs are in ways of what STAR standards are you struggling with, what do you need help with, what do you need resources on, do you need professional development in your area, what do you need, what can we help you with to help you reach that STAR 2. So we're just going to go through the standards, and you can let me know which standards you need more information on. And then we can schedule more of these and really delve into each individual standard. So what we've done in the past is we've had, in certain counties, we've had these cohorts live in person. We've had a couple, in Lehigh County, Berks County, and they've been very successful. They usually meet every 2 weeks for about 3 months, and they decide, which topic they're going to talk about each time. So, for example, if you need assistance on lesson plans and how you can connect those to the learning standards, we would have a session just on that, give you all the resources. Directors bring what they have, they share information with each other. Sometimes we might have a trainer come in and give a training on that. So it's really based on what you need and, like I said, how we can help you meet your goals. So again, this is kind of, there's not a real structured format to this one. We're just going to kind of open it up to see what you guys are prepared, to do going forward. So again, we will provide resources, documents, if you need technical assistance, if you need professional development, and then we're just going to look at the PAK's website a little bit to see what's available there if not everybody is familiar with that. Okay. So to get into what your needs are, this is just a list of a couple of the topics that have been brought up at previous sessions, for people. And usually the number one standard that directors have found challenging for the STAR 2 is the career lattice, where it states that certain, 50% of the staff have to be at a level 5 or whatever it is. And again, that standard's different if you're a family or if you're a group. But again, these are just a couple of the standards that people have let us know that they want more information on and have a hard time meeting. So, you can get, if any of these are, something that you would need, just please let us know. And as we're going through the STAR standards, if there's something that you don't understand or need more information on or want a full session around, again, just let me know. You can put that in the questions or in the chat pane. Okay. Another thing I want to touch on, and again, this is part of the Northeast key. If you're in a different key, this may look somewhat different. Again, you would check with your STAR specialist. But this is kind of what a year at a glance is going to look like for programs who are part of STARS. And it's a continuous cycle, but if you look at the very bottom box that says designation, what you kind of want to do is start there and then work backwards to kind of plan your year out. So if you have an idea of when your STAR designation is going to be, so let's say your STAR 1 is going to expire in next June. And, at that point you can decide if you want to renew a STAR 1 or if you think you want to move up to be a STAR 2. If you want to move up to be a STAR 2, this is where you're going to go backwards. So let's say, by next June, you want to be a STAR 2. So then if you look at the top box, what you want to do is schedule with your STARS manager a planning visit where we would come out about 6 to 9 months prior to your designation. So that would say, 6 months would be about December, January. So in December, January, you want to schedule with your STARS manager a time to come out and have a planning visit. And again, that's where we will come out and talk about your challenges. What are your needs? Do you need professional development? Do you need technical assistance? What resources do you need? What can we do for you to help you? And we just kind of get an idea of a plan for you for the next 6 to 9 months. Okay, and then the box after that where it says communication 3 to 4 months out. So after we have that planning visit, about 3 to 4 months later, we'll just touch base again. It could be through email, a phone call, whatever, just to say, how are you doing? What do you need? What challenges are you facing? That kind of thing. And then the box after that where it says pre-designation, that is where you are ready for us to come out and verify that you have all the standards in place. So the pre-designation is where your STARS manager comes out, looks through all your documentation for a STAR 2, and ensures that you're ready for our designator to come out and designate you at a STAR 2. So at your pre-designation, again, we're going to look through everything, all of the staff PDRs, all of your forms and tools, your handbooks, that kind of thing. If there is anything missing, such as, one staff is missing some professional development, we will, the box after that where it says pre-designation, summary, and follow-up, we would then send you a letter of anything that was missing during our designation, and you would have about 2 weeks to get that information to us before our designator comes out, because they're usually scheduled about 2 weeks after our visit. Again, same thing applies. If you're missing anything when the designator is there, there's a designation follow-up letter that is sent. And after that, where it says ERS visit, this is for STAR 3s and 4s. So if you're, again, moving up to a star 3 or a star 4, you would have an ERS assessor come visit you. At a star 2, you're going to do the ERS assessments on yourself. Okay, so that's a little bit different at a star 2. And then after the designator is there and you have your star 2, you get the financial award or a grant. And then, as you can see, the designation then starts all over the cycle. So, again, you want to look and see what, after you're designated, look at the year upcoming to see, how do you start planning again? Are you going to stay at a star 2 for the upcoming year? Are you going to try to move up to a star 3? Either way, you're going to want to have a planning visit. So every program should have a planning visit at least once a year if you're moving up or not. Okay, so any questions on this process so far? Okay. I'm not seeing any responses, so it looks like everybody's kind of just following along, which is good. Okay, so next is some of the resources that are available on the PA-Keys website. So I just want to point out there's a section on the PA-Keys website that says Forms and Tools, and this is where you're going to get most of your STARS forms, tools, optional tools, that kind of thing. So if you go to pakeys.org, and it's just going to bring up the website for me. Let me just move these around a little bit. Okay, on the right-hand side, you can see where it says Early Childhood Programs. That's the link you're going to click on. And over on the left-hand side, under Keystone Stars, there's a link that says Forms and Tools. Okay, when you click on that, going across the top, it's broken down by facility type. So if you're a center, all of your forms are going to be there. If you're a family daycare home, you would click on that tab, okay, for all of yours. Same thing for group. So for center, the Star 2 worksheet, they were just updated for this new year. So you would just click on the Star 2 worksheet and it would bring that up. Excuse me. There's also other tools on there. The grants haven't been released yet, but once they do, this is where you will find them. The far right tab where it says Optional Tools. As you go through the worksheet, this for Star 2 or even Star 1 at any star level, sometimes on the worksheets it will say, under the standard, it will say Optional Tool Available. And what these are is the PA-Key has developed templates, tools, resources that you can use, and as the name says, they are optional. So if you have something you're already using that meets the standard, that's fine. However, if you don't feel like creating something new to meet a certain standard, these are available for you to use as templates to kind of help you along, along the way. One sample one, let's see. Let's go to the job descriptions guide. And I'll show you just an example of what that looks like. My computer's taken a little bit to download, so I apologize for the slowness of it. And it's not coming up just yet. There we go. Okay, so here's one of the Star 2 standards is that there are job descriptions available to the staff. Best practices is that if it's in your staff handbook for every position that you have available. So if you have, a director, you're going to have a job description for a director. One for lead teacher, one for assistant group teacher. If you have aides, however many staff positions you have, you would need a job description for each one. So if you don't already have one that you're using, here's a nice little template that you can use, a sample, best practice. It tells you what should be in it for every piece. And then there's a blank one that you can fill out your own information. They have a sample one for lead teachers for preschoolers, so these things are available on the website to you. And again, it's under the optional tools bar under Forms and Tools, which was under the Early Childhood Programs link. Sometimes some things are hard to navigate throughout this website, and a lot of times I come on here and try to find something and it's not where I think it is. So in that case, up at the top, I click on the search button and I just type in what I'm searching for, and it brings it up a little easier sometimes for me. Okay. Another place I want to show you on here, if you're not familiar with it, most people should be by now, is the PA Keys calendar. So to log into the calendar and get to the intranet instead of the internet, you're going to click the login button. Now, not only do you as a director or owner need to do this, but you need to have all of your staff do this as well. So you want to have them create a login for themselves, and there's two different ways they can do this. They can create one by email and password, or they can go by their date of birth and the last 5 of their social. So if they're a new user, they would register where it says new users, register here. But I'm just going to log in quickly to show you parts of the calendar, if you're not familiar with these. Once you're logged in, on the left-hand side, you're going to have some different options, where you're going to update your contact information. And we do ask that everybody, if you can see here, there's an announcement that the PA Key just made. Everybody absolutely 100% has to have an email. So you always want to make sure your current email is in there, a phone number, because what happens sometimes is these events get canceled and then we don't have a way to contact you to let you know. So you always want to make sure there's good contact information in there and that that's kept updated. You can also view your PD, your professional development history. The calendar is where you would search or can see upcoming events in your region. So most people don't understand that there is a detailed search available. So underneath before you even enter anything in the search bar, you're going to click on detailed search. And you can search by knowledge area, date range, all these different features. But let's say you want to look for one of the STAR 2 requirements is that you have, let's say, a training on health and safety. So you need a 2-hour training on health and safety, which is a K7. So you can search by knowledge area, you can search by date area, and you can search by your county. So for example, I live in Schuylkill County, so I can put in Schuylkill and then click search. And then you can see what comes up in your area. You can search by any county in your key region, but when you find one that would meet your date and time needs for you and your staff, you would click on it, click the register button, and do it that way. So these are all for live in-person trainings. Another area is over here on the left where it says self-learning. Okay, now these self-learning modules are all things that you and staff can do on your own, in your own time. It's usually online or some kind of correspondence course or something to that effect. But as you can see, a lot of people do use Better Kid Care. So all of their courses are on here. There are care courses available, and then each regional key has their own section of self-learning modules. There's Child Care Lounge. Hildebrandt offers some. Northeast School Age. And then here ours, the Northeast Regional Key. So some self-learning modules that we have are on receipt collection for your grants, infant care, sign language, talking with babies, stress class, you can go down. There's sales training. So there's all kinds of self-learning opportunities on here that you can do in addition to attending the ones on the calendar. Trying to see if there's anything else on here. If you have anybody applying for a CDA, there you can click on the voucher requests and they can apply online or print it out and send it in. But there are vouchers available for the CDA and also for college tuition reimbursement. So that is the section where you would find that information. So any questions on the PAKeys website? Okay, so I'm just going to move. Okay, we went over all of that. Okay, now I'm going to talk about the STAR 2 worksheet and the Good, Better, Best document. So let me pull that up. Okay, so this is just the STAR 2 worksheet, and again, this is the one for centers. You'd want to pull up one if you're a center or group, just to see some of the minor differences between them. But the standards are broken down into different sections. The first section is geared towards staff qualifications and professional development. And then within that one, there are qualifications for the director. And then after the director, there are, let's see where to go. There are qualifications that staff need to meet. Okay, so there's certain ones that director needs, there's certain ones staff needs, and then there's certain ones that everybody needs. All right, so, and then as you can see, it's also broken down into 3 different columns. So the first column will state the standard itself. So for example, the first one says the director completes the STARS orientation within 90 days of enrolling in Keystone STARS. And then it will tell you what kind of documentation you would need to have available to verify that you've met that standard. So for example, for this one, we'd need to see a professional development certificate that shows that you attended the STARS orientation. The middle column is notes, clarifications, where you can write things in for yourself. So again, a note for this standard is that this professional development is optional if you had been a director at a STAR 1 or above prior to July 1st, 2008. Okay? If not, then everyone else is required to attend. So you could, once you've attended, just put your initials, check that you've completed it, the date, and the hours. And then the final column, the third column, is where the STARS manager or designator verifies that, we've seen the documentation and verify that that standard has been met. Now on the standards, you will notice towards the bottom, there's little boxes where you can check if the standard has been met, good, better, or best. There is a document called the Good, Better, Best document, and again, that's available on the Forms and Tools section of the PAKey website. But I can pull up just one sort of, let's see, this one is for center and groups. There's also one for family, but it's called the Good, Better, Best Pennsylvania CQI, which stands for Continuous Quality Improvement Guide to Best Practices. It's broken down into the same sections that the standards are broken down into. And then what it does, and there are separate professional developments just on this document itself and how to use it, but I'm just going to kind of touch on it quickly so you know what it means when you're looking at each of these standards. So for certain standards, it will list it there, and it will also list what star level each standard's for. So for example, this one, complete professional development on the core body of knowledge, professional development record, and foundations for environment rating scale. This one is for a star 1 or a star 2 program. Okay. Now, each of those standards, there's different ways to meet each of the standards. If you just meet the standard, that's considered, and I don't want to say just, but if you're meeting the standard, that's considered you're meeting it at a good level. Okay, and then it gives you different ways that you can meet the standard. So the director would take it, let's see, maybe she's taken each of the age groups, that is present at the center or the group daycare home. And then the next level is a better level. So not only did you meet the standard, but you went a little bit above. So maybe the assistant director attended also. Maybe the lead teachers attended. Maybe they did some additional stuff around that standard. So then that's being met at a better level. And then, as you can see in the best column, maybe other staff members attended as well. They have it within a certain time frame. Maybe the owner completes it as well. So, there's different ways you can meet a standard. This is in no way saying that this center is good and this center is the best. That's not how the document is intended. This is just for each program to be able to grow within the standards. So, for example, you might be a star 4 center. There isn't a star higher than a star 4. However, you can still continue to grow. You can meet, you might be a star 4 meeting all the standards at a good level, but you can still grow to, be meeting them at a better or a best level. Also within the document, there is supporting research available that shows, the intention behind the standard. Where did the standard come from? Why is it good? A good indicator for high quality programs. Okay, then after that are references, and this one is blank. There are also sources of evidence. So these are suggested ways of how you can show your documented evidence of how you're meeting the standard. Here it might be signed and dated certificates, verification from the regional key that it was noted on the worksheet, your professional development history in the PAKEYS calendar. So there's different ways that you can show that you meet the standard. If you need more information on it, there are supports available. So, for each one it will tell you, places to go to get more information on that. And then finally, there's different program considerations. So if you're a Head Start program, there's, might be exceptions or, just some additional information for you. Same thing with school age, if your pre-K counts. So, they do take those additional programs into consideration. Okay, so that's just kind of touching on the good, better, best. And you really, as a program, decide, are you meeting it at a good level, a better level, or a best level? And you would just check which one you feel it is. And when your STARS manager comes out, we would, have that discussion with you. We would bring the tool with us, look through and talk about how you're meeting it, maybe how you can, grow within that standard and meet it at a higher level in the future. Okay. So any questions on that so far about completing the STARS what about the first standard, completing the STARS orientation? Has anybody had difficulty maybe finding that training or, just maybe they don't have it in your area? Like, these are the things that we need to know so that we can make our plans better to meet your needs and help you move up. Okay. So it seems that everybody's okay with that one. Okay, the next one, again, for the director, it says that you complete the professional development on the core body of knowledge / professional development record, also referred to as CBK PDR. So that's the first part of the standard. The second part is that you complete the ERS foundations. And again, we would want to see the professional development certificates for each of those trainings. There is a note section, in the middle that says if it's a new director, they have 12 months to complete that. And if they took it, either ITERS, ECHRS, or SACRS before July 2007, that would count for your ERS foundations. Okay. Another thing I just want to point out is these director PD requirements are considered core series. So these are professional development that, if it's part of the core series, you only need to take them once unless there's, an update or something down the road and you might need a refresher on them. But STARS orientation, the first part, you only need to take that once. It's not an annual requirement. There are some professional development standards that are required on an annual ongoing basis, but the core series ones are kind of once and done, like I said, unless something changes or you just need a refresher on it. Okay, the next requirement for directors is that they complete the professional development on continuous quality improvement, or CQI, and the facility professional development plan, also known as FPDP. So again, this is a kind of a three-part standard. So there's the CQI, the FPDP, and those two you will often see given together, at least within our regional key. Those are usually offered both at the same time. Okay, then the other part is that it says, and the learning standards. Okay, so this is 3 professional development trainings you would need to attend to meet the one standard. Again, over here, if you're a new director, you would have 12 months to get those trainings in. And you want to make sure that when you attend the learning standards, that it's the one that is 6 hours. Okay, and that again is usually given on a Saturday. Sometimes it's given at conferences, but it has to be the 6-hour one. And if you're doing a search for this one on the PA Keys calendar, it won't just say learning standards. It will say something to the effect of integrating something with, and I apologize for not having the exact title with me. But if you do, a search and put in learning standards, again, make sure it's one of the 6-hour ones. And you want to always make sure that the training that you're attending is given by a PQAS-approved instructor from the calendar. Okay. Next is that it states complete professional development in the ERS scales appropriate to age groups in the facility. So I'm scrolling. At a STAR 2, you're going to have the ERS Foundations, and that is the session that will teach you how to score the ERS, or Environment Rating Scales assessments. Okay. Then there are ITERS, ECHRS, SACRS, and there's also FECRS for family child care. So if you're a family child care, you would just need to do the FECRS. It's FCCERS. Okay. If you are a group home that is in your home, then you would do the FECRS. But if you're a group home that's at a site that has different classrooms, like you have an infant classroom, toddler classroom, whatever, then you would need to do each of the age groups. So ITERS stands for infant toddler. So if you have an infant toddler classroom, you would need to take the ITERS training. ECHRS stands for early childhood or preschool. So if you have preschool children, you would need to take the ECHRS. And the SACRS stands for school age. So if you have school-age children in your facility, then you have to take SACRS. So if your program ranges from infant all the way up through school age, then to meet the standard, you need to take all 3 of those. Again, family child care would just take the FECRS because that spans the different age groups and is geared towards having a program in your home. Any questions on that standard? Okay. Moving on, the next one is that again, this is just for the director, that they attend child abuse mandated reporter that reflects the most current laws. So some notes is that it has to be at least 2 hours long. If you completed it within a certain time frame from July 1st, 2006 through June 30th, 2007, they passed new laws in May 2007. So you would have to read the updated summary, sign it, date it, and attach it to your old certificate. Okay. If it was prior to July 1st, 2006, you have to have the updated professional development. Okay, so again, around this standard, one of the things you want to make sure is that the person that is giving the training is an approved instructor through PQAS and that they're approved to give this child abuse mandated reporter. Sometimes what happens is when we're looking at certificates, it might say the title is child abuse mandated reporter, but that instructor wasn't approved. They might have been approved to give a health and safety training, but not on child abuse. So in that case, we're not allowed to, we can't accept those certificates as valid. And it's not the program's fault because you just might not have been aware of that. So you always want to, check with your STARS manager, or talk to the instructor to find out if, indeed that's an approved PD that you can take. So I see somebody has a question. If they're going to be grouped, they would still take FECRS. Yeah, if the group is going to remain in your home, so if it's a home-based program, then you would do FECRS. Okay. If your group is in like a school or a church or something like that, then you would have to take the ITRS, ECRS, SACRS. Okay? Okay, any questions on child abuse? Okay, let's see. Also at a STAR 2, this is where the standards come in for everybody needing a PDR or a professional development record. So it will state it here under the director. So the director will need to have a PDR as well as staff. These, if they don't have a PDR, these can be ordered through the PA key, and I can send this out to everybody on how to order PDRs for you and your staff. I will make a note of that to send that out to everybody's email after the session's over. So then that way everybody has that available. But here it will tell you the last 4 pages of the PDR is the annual training plan. It's where you reflect on the trainings that you had for the year. You kind of plan for the upcoming year. Where do you need more training? There's the self-assessments where you go through the PDR and write for each competency if it's a beginning, if you're just learning about something, if it's developing, maybe you had a little bit of training on the topic, or if you've mastered it, you feel you know everything there is to know about that topic. And then you use that self-assessment to plan your training. So you might have so much knowledge and lesson plans, but you might not really have a lot of training around transitioning children. So then the upcoming year you want to look for some transition information. Okay. If you are a director, the knowledge areas are broken down, K standing for knowledge area, so it will be knowledge area 1 through knowledge area 7. But then there's also a section that will say D, so that will stand for director. So if you're director, you also have to complete the director competencies. And then there will be H sections, which stands for home-based. So if you're a family provider, then you would complete the H sections as well, because the competencies are a little bit different. And then also, if you're a new director, it says that you have 90 days from the date of hire. If you're for school age, you have 180 days. Okay. So Beth says, thank you, she needed to know where to get the PDR. So yes, I will definitely send that out to everybody. Okay, the next standard, again, staying with directors, is that every year, once a year, they have to participate in a professional growth and development activity. Again, this is where some of the regional keys may differ as to what we accept, what we might not accept. The very last page, and I'll just scroll to that, will outline some of the, some of the things that are acceptable as a professional growth and development activity. So this is on page 27 of the worksheet, and I'll just highlight that section. So the intent behind this standard is that in addition to having your professional development training that you have, you still have to, something maybe above and beyond that is going to help you grow as a professional and to help others grow as professionals in your field as well. So some of the examples that are listed here that are acceptable, it's not, this list isn't all-inclusive, so like I said, some keys might accept some other things, but you would just want to check with your STARS manager to say, hey, I'm doing this, so, would this be accepted? So the first one is that you're an active member of a professional organization, and that could be local, state, or national. So for example, if you're a member of NAEYC or the Pennsylvania Child Care Association, PACA, or Family Child Care Association, that sort of thing, that would count as professional growth and development. Now, as far as the standards go, for every standard, there always has to be supporting documentation. So what we're going to look for is, just for this one, for example, what we would look for is a card, a membership card or an email or something that you received from the organization that states you're an active member. Okay, now active being the key word, because you just can't pay the money, join an association, and say, I've met the standard. Okay, we want to see how are you an active member? Are you reading the articles that they send you? Are you sharing it with, staff members? How are you using that to grow as a professional? So in our key, in the Northeast key, we have additional little handouts that we can give for each one of these that will say, for example, number 7, if you're mentoring or helping another program or down the road, we have like a little form to fill out that says, well, how are you helping? What are you doing? How is that helping them grow as a professional? How is it helping you grow as a professional? Okay, so again, check with your key to see what's acceptable. But again, these are some different ways that you can meet the standard. Number 4 says that if you're a presenter, trainer, or instructor in child development, now in our key, we will accept this one as long as it's not your own staff, okay? Because as a director, you train your own staff anyway. So again, this standard, we want to see how you're going above and beyond what's normal. So are you training families? Are you giving a training in the community? Are you, going down the street to another center and giving them training? Okay. Another thing that we accept is we have county-wide conferences. So, for example, in Berks County, they have a large annual conference every year. Well, there's a handful of directors who get together and help to plan that conference. The day of the conference, they help accept registrations, direct people to the correct rooms, that sort of thing. So we count that as their professional growth and development activity for that year. So there's different ways that this can be met. A little bit further down, these last two, it says for use in conjunction with assistant level staff and aides only. So for lead teachers and directors, these two wouldn't be considered. But if a staff member is an aide who is enrolled in a CDA program, that would be their professional growth and development. Or for an aide or assistant level teacher, if they read an article and write a response to that article, maybe on what they learned, reading the article, how they can implement it into their program, that kind of thing. So, those two are for the staff who are, again, just aides or assistant level teaching staff. If it's a lead teacher, group supervisor, director, then they have to stick to the ones above. Okay, I have a question that says, number 9, supervisor of student teachers. Would that include students who are working for their internship program for the local ECE program at our college? Again, with being from a different key and our key, we would accept that. And usually when you're supervising student teachers, they bring with them like a sign-off form. So every time that they're there and you're supervising them, guiding them, helping them meet their professional goals, you usually sign off on it. So we would ask that you would keep a copy of that to show as documentation of your professional growth and development. So again, Deborah, I would check with your region, but in our region, yes, we would accept that. I hope that helped a little bit. But again, you always want to keep in mind documentation, documentation, documentation. Okay? So now I'm going to scroll back up to where we left off. Okay, so that was the professional growth and development activity. Now again, at a star 2, this is just for a director. At higher star levels, then your staff have to start having this too. Here again for the director, they would need to have 15 hours of professional development based on the PDR. So the middle column will tell you, all of the notes. So if you've taken, your ITERs, your ECRs, your SACRs, all of your core series within this designation year, that would count towards your 15 hours. So you wouldn't have to take all of your course series for a star 2 plus another 15 hours. Okay, we would include it together. If you are taking college courses, and the college course is in early childhood, then we would consider that. And the conversion is that, 1 credit would equal 15 clock hours. So if you're taking a 3-credit course in early childhood, that's 45 hours. You've gone way above and beyond the 15 that you need. Okay. The second note says that annual clock hours include STARS approved professional development that has occurred in the 12 months prior to the designation visit. So this is really important. When we come out to do your pre-designation and your designation visit, we're going to look at the previous 12 months from your designation visit. So if you're going to, your designation is going to be, say, in June of 2014, we're going to look from July 2013 through June 2014. I hope I didn't lose anybody there. But we look at the previous year. Okay, so if somebody's certificate is from March of 2013, they're outside that designation year, they would need to retake that training certificate. Okay, so hopefully we want to make sure that, you know, everybody's clock hours are always, you know, don't wait until your designation to have staff try to cram everything in, you know, to have all their training hours. Always just have them, when they see that their certificate's getting ready to expire for something, just, you know, like a month ahead, have them plan to reattend that training. Okay. Also, if you're a new director, you have 12 months. Uh-oh, my Word document is closing. Oh, let me try to reopen that. Apologize for that, guys. Maybe, I don't know while I'm opening this up if anybody has any questions that they could take a second to type in. And I just need to find where we were. Shut down again. Okay, let's try this again. There we go. Okay, let's scroll back to where we were. Okay. All right. So, yes, everybody, if they're a new hire, they have 12 months after their start date to complete those annual clock hours. The hours that we cannot count towards these 15 hours is anything that is required by DPW. So because Keystone Stars is above and beyond DPW requirements, we can't count, you know, those basic requirements. So DPW requires fire, water safety, pediatric first aid, those things that we can't count those towards your annual clock hours. So if you've had pediatric first aid and say CPR together on one day, try to see if that instructor will give you 2 separate certificates for that if possible, because we can count CPR because that's above. DPW only requires first aid, so we can't count the first aid, but we can count the CPR time. So same thing with fire and water. If you have those, we cannot count those. And then there's just a little note here that if you're doing a self-learning module, sometimes those take 6 to 8 weeks, you know, if you go through Better Kid Care or CELS or something. So again, you want to plan ahead so that your certificates aren't expired before your designation. If you did complete an online module, say through Better Kid Care, you would have to, here it says, for designation purposes, a copy of the completed module and returned mail receipt will be acceptable. Okay. Any questions on those 15 hours for the director before we move on to staff qualifications? Okay. For the staff, there is a new staff orientation, and this is separate from the director's Keystone Stars orientation. A lot of times those two get confusing and get a little mixed up. The director needs to attend Keystone Stars orientation, which talks about, you know, what Keystone Stars is, what's continuous quality improvement, resources and supports that are available for you, talks about change, that kind of thing. New staff orientation is for new staff that you hire within, early childhood, it talks about things that they should look for, in your program for health, safety, ratios, environments, that kind of thing. So, again, make sure it's two separate things that you're documenting. So for new staff, they have 90 days from the time they're hired. If you look at the notes, school-age staff have 180 days, or if they work less than 500 hours a year, they have 180 days. Okay, and again, that is through Better Kid Care. If you go online to the Better Kid Care website, the new staff orientation is 15 hours, and it's done online. If you're a school-age program, or if you have staff who only work with school-age children, there is a school-age new staff orientation module that they could do online also. Also here, it states that these training hours only count for new staff orientation. So within new staff orientation, they talk about health and safety, observation, etc. But when we get a little further down and it says that staff also need to have 2 hours of health and safety, or 2 hours of observation, this isn't going to meet that requirement also. Okay, they're two separate things. Okay, this is the standard where everybody kind of gets a little panicky because the way the standard's written, it sounds much more challenging to meet the standard than it actually is. So again, we set aside time as STARS managers to come out, look through all of, and again, this is done during the planning visit. We come out, look through all of your staff's degrees, transcripts, credentials, training hours, and determine where everybody is on the career lattice. And we can't say for every program how many staff you need to be at different levels on the career lattice, because it's based on enrollment numbers. So a small program is going to need less teachers at higher levels than a larger program would. Okay, so we can't, there is no, one answer fits all for this. This is based on individual programs. So this one is hard to kind of delve into today, but we are having in 2 weeks, we're going to have another one of these sessions that's just focusing on this standard. It's going to talk about career lattice, how to review transcripts, what makes staff eligible for the Education and Retention Award, how many staff do you need at certain levels. So we will get more into that the next time we do this. Okay, and again, this is one of the ones where it says there are optional tools available. So there's the Career Lattice Information Sheet, and there's a document called Early Childhood Education Credit Guidelines, and that is kind of like our Bible when it comes to counting credits. Okay, but just to kind of summarize the standard, it states that 50% of teachers or group supervisors have to be at level 5 or above on the career lattice. A level 5 means that they have an associate's degree in early childhood, or they can have a related degree such as education, nursing, human services, psychology. There's a list of related degrees, and 18 of their credits have to be in early childhood. Again, people panic because you might have, 10 group supervisors or lead teachers, so you're thinking you have to have 5 of them, and that's not the way it plays out when we put it on paper, because again, we don't go by that. We go by, the number of children enrolled and how many you actually have to have versus how many you really have hired. So, like I said, this standard is one that most people don't move up to a STAR 2 just because they read it and think, oh, we don't have it, we can't do it. But if you have somebody sit down and really work out the numbers with you, most programs are surprised to find out that they do meet this standard. And then the second part of that says that 50% of assistant teachers are at a level 2 or above. So a level 2 means they either have 3 credits in early childhood or 45 hours of professional development training. And if you have any aides, at least all aides need to be a level 1, which a level 1 is a high school diploma or GED and the 15 hours of new staff orientation. Okay, so again, I don't want to get too much into this because we could spend a whole another 2 hours just on this standard alone. That's why we're having a whole separate session for it. So if you're interested in that, you can sign up for that on the PAKeys website also. Okay, continuing with staff development, again, this is just kind of repeating we went over with the director with the PDR. So all staff need to have a professional development plan in place. You know, they do their self-assessment on themselves and complete the last 4 pages, which is the annual training plan section. The next one is that at least one staff member from each classroom has to have current pediatric first aid certification. Now, what a lot of directors or programs will do is just send all their staff because they find that it's easier to just know that all of their staff is trained, and then they don't have to figure out, you know, this person has to be here at this time and that person has to be here at that time because, you know, they're the ones who are first aid certified. So because they don't want to have to worry about shuffling those people around based on who's certified and who isn't, they just say everybody has pediatric first aid. And again, that would be meeting the good, better, best level at a higher level when you have everybody certified in it versus one. But again, the standard just states that just one person in each classroom has to have pediatric first aid. And what we look for is either a copy of the card or the professional development certificate. And I just really want to stress here that the card and the certificate absolutely has to state pediatric first aid. We've had practitioners who have attended a first aid training, and in addition they also gave infant and child CPR. Well, just because the infant and child CPR portion met the age requirement, the first aid didn't state pediatric first aid, so we couldn't accept that. So we would at that point say, you know, you need to maybe go back to the instructor and have them change the card for you, or if they did indeed cover pediatric first aid. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, but it absolutely has to state that it's pediatric first aid. Okay, and also on the PAKeys website, there's a document that states who are the acceptable organizations that we will take, and I'll add that to my list of things to send out to you guys. That way you don't have to go looking for it. I'll just send it to you. Just some off the top of my head are American Red Cross, American Heart Association. So there's a list of ones that we do accept, because anybody can give a first aid training and say they're, you know, certified in it, but they're not given the right information. So then we can't accept that certificate. And then again, that falls back on the teachers who spent their time and money. So we want to make sure everybody's getting the right training and getting the good training. Okay. Next, staff, whereas the director needed 15 hours annually, staff only need 12. And again, we would count the new staff orientation. So if they had new staff orientation, which is 15 hours within, you know, this designation year, that would meet the 12 hours. They would actually be 3 hours over. However, if they've had orientation last year, not this, you know, not within this designation year, then they need to take 12 hours. Again, you know, we look at college credits. We look at the time that staff's working. So if they work less than 500 hours a year, if they're a volunteer or a substitute, it's only the 6 annual clock hours for them. If they're a new hire, they have 12 months to get that time in. Again, it tells you what doesn't count, and it talks about the self-learning modules. Okay. Here it states all staff. So this is staff and director. Whenever it says all staff, has to have 2 hours of health and safety annually. So this is one that you want to always make sure staff, once their certificate expires, you want to make sure they have another one in place of it. So a health and safety, it gives you some examples and suggested ones to take if they've never had a health and safety before. So step up to quality or managing illness in childcare. Those are ESELS workshops, are the recommended initial courses. So if you've already taken these courses, it gives you some examples of some other courses that are good to take. If you want to know if an appropriate topic is going to be accepted, it says to contact your regional key. Again, it talks about self-learning modules. But the only hint here is for health and safety, for it to be acceptable in our region, it absolutely has to start, the code on the training has to be a K7. So if you ever look at your professional development certificates that you get, there's a letter and number code on them, and it might say K7, C2, and then a number, 88 or something. The K stands for the knowledge area, and if you've taken CPK PDR training already, this was covered. If not, you'll find out more about this in the CPK PDR training. The K7 is what we're looking for in the health and safety, okay, because K7 is all health and safety coded professional development, okay? Next is, again, annually, all staff, so this is staff and director, have to have 2 hours of professional development, and it gives you a choice here, either child observation, inclusive practices, or ERS. Okay, if you've taken the ITERS, ECHRS, SACRS, that won't count for this. Okay, this is an addition. So if you've had ITERS, ECHRS, SACRS 2-3 years ago and you take a refresher course, then it would count. But we can't count one training for 2 standards for that part, if that makes sense. Again, most people will take child observation, but inclusive practices, there are different things that we count for that. Again, with our regional key, it could be something on working with kids with special needs, a diversity training, our sign language training, that kind of thing. There's different things that we accept for inclusive practices. So again, you would just check with your STARS manager to see if it would be something that's acceptable. Okay, so that was all of the staff qualifications. On any questions on any of those so far before we get into the learning program? And usually that's the biggest jump for people going from a STAR 1 to a STAR 2 is getting all those additional trainings in. That's usually the hardest part for people because a lot of this other stuff, what we find is most programs are already doing it. It's just they're not documenting that they're doing it. So now they have to kind of work in ways of, being accountable for what they might already be doing. Okay, so getting into the learning program. As you can see, after the standards, if there is a parentheses that says STAR 1, this means if you're already a STAR 1, this is something you should already have in place, okay? We're just re-verifying it again at a STAR 2. If there is nothing after it, like in the standard after it, that means it's a brand new standard for that STAR 2. So again, everybody should already be meeting this one, that you obtain and maintain copies of the appropriate learning standards for every age group in your program. So if you have infant toddlers, you have a copy of infant standards, toddler standards, preschool, school age, so on. Now at our key, there's different ways we accept this. You don't necessarily have to have hard copies because the way the standard reads is that you have copies of all of them, and they have to be accessible for all staff members to review. So if you have maybe in your staff lounge a computer and you have all the learning standards saved on a desktop of that laptop, then for us that's meeting standard because they're available and accessible for all staff. Some programs will actually order the nice printed colored hard copies and have them in each classroom. So on there's the website, that fulfill@wavelinedirect.com is where you can order the nice, pretty hard copies and have them for each classroom. Okay, so that was the Star 1 standard. At a Star 2, like I said in the beginning, each higher star builds on the previous, the standard before it. So at a Star 1, you just need to have accessible copies of the learning standards. At a Star 2 now, what it states is that you're using them as a resource for classroom planning and documenting the children's learning. So some things that we're going to look for is, it says the STAR staff, and that would be the designator, that they might just interview and talk with your staff to say, how are you using the learning standards when you're planning lessons? And then also what we would look for is that your planned classroom activities or your lesson plans are reflecting the key learning areas in the learning standards. So literacy, math, science, social, all those key learning areas, we're going to look to see that there's a connection being made. And the way most people do that is, if you're planning a cooking activity, underneath, in that lesson plan section, underneath the cooking activity, you might just write the number of the standard, which might be like 1.3.A or something. And again, there's trainings available on this. If you take the learning standards 6-hour training, there's 6 hours to cover how to meet this standard. And again, there is an optional tool available which says it's called Linking Standards to Classroom Planning, and that will have sample lesson plans on what it might look like. So there's a template there if you don't already have a lesson plan template in place that you can go and get those, and it shows you kind of what that might look like. Okay. And then the notes recommendations is that lesson plans should address each key learning area daily, and that they should have some kind of goal for your lesson. So, your weekly theme might be, friendships. But what is that goal for the week? What are you focusing on? Are you going to work on fine motor skills that week, or, maybe integrating some social emotional activities? So really, we want to see what the goal is. And when we come out, again, and this is just for the Northeast region, when we come out, we're going to look, maybe it's just like the last 4 weeks, okay? Some people bring us binders of 6 years of lesson plans, which is great. So now we want to really just look and see, the last couple of weeks is minimal. Somebody says, I found that some of the optional tools have not been available in the past. Are they now? I know with the new fiscal year, they were taking some things off and putting some updates on. So you may see some things disappear, come back, not come back. But what I can do is I can send, if there's something that's not there, I can send it to you. So what I will do is I will send you this optional tool. So writing this down, linking standards, and I'll send this out afterwards. Okay. So Deborah, if you haven't seen them there in the past, you might just want to recheck, or maybe go through your STARS specialist or STARS manager, because sometimes we keep copies of things that so we just have them in our files for when things like that happen. Okay. The next one, at a STAR 2, that the provider selects an OCDEL approved assessment tool. And I'm just right away going to add this to my list to send the list of approved assessment tools. Now, what this is getting you ready to, at a STAR 3, you need to, when you're doing child assessments, you will start entering them online. At a STAR 2, it's just saying we want you to do the research, because there are a list of assessment vendors that you can use. In the past, it used to only be one, that everybody used the same one, but now they've opened it up to give you a choice. So you get to choose the assessment of your choice, and they vary so much. So we really want you to do your research. There are on the PAQ's website, under Child Outcomes section, you can print out for each assessment tool. It gives you kind of like an overview of each one. The prices range, some might charge $7 per child, some might charge $10 per child. So you need to take that into consideration. Some of them will have, an app for mobile devices. So if you have, iPads or tablets or whatever it is in your classrooms for your teachers, that might be a huge plus for you, that they could just, enter the assessments right there on their tablets. So each one is a little different. So at this stage, at a STAR 2, we just want you to do the research, print out, what you find, and that could be your documentation, and then choose one. And that will be meeting the standard. That's not to say that you can't change your mind down the road and get a different one. That's fine. But we just, like I said, we want you to have the knowledge of, where kind of what's to come at a STAR 3. Somebody's asking, where did you say those are located? They are under, on the left-hand side of the PAKey's website. They're not under Forms and Tools. It's under Child Outcomes. Okay. But I will actually send you the list of approved assessments. Some of them are like work sampling, OUNCE, Brigance, Creative Curriculum, or Teaching Strategies Gold. So there's different ones. Lakeshore has a new one that just came out. So you're just going to, at this STAR level, like I said, do your research and pick one. And then it's kind of getting you ready for the STAR 3, where you're actually going to purchase that assessment and start using it online. Okay. The next one is a developmentally appropriate screening of the child is completed and shared with families within 45 days of program entry. This is one of the standards that when we do these cohorts, a lot of people have struggled with challenges with, so we sometimes plan a whole 2-hour session just around this standard. But just to kind of briefly go over it, it is the screening is not the same thing as an assessment. So we just want to point that out, that an assessment is kind of tracking the child's development, and you're planning for activities to help them reach the next goal or milestone of their development. A screening, however, is you're looking for, I guess, red flags in development. Is this child not developing on the typical scale that's expected for, their age group? And again, this is done within 45 days because you want to be able to pinpoint if there's any issues. You want to have those early on. And the recommended one is Ages and Stages. It's Ages and Stages Questionnaire, or ASQ. And there are professional developments available on that. So if you attend that professional development, you will get the Ages and Stages Questionnaire to use for free. You wouldn't have to pay for it. However, although it's the recommended tool, that doesn't mean that's the one you absolutely have to use. So again, check with your regional key, because in our key there are different ones that we can recommend to you that you can use. But again, this needs to be done within 45 days and shared with the family. So we would want to see some type of documentation that, how was it shared with the family? Did you just hand them the assessment? Did you have a meeting with them? Whatever you do, make sure that there's some sort of maybe signature from the parent that they could have declined it, or, whatever it is. We always have to have some documentation that shows it was offered. Now, in the notes section, it will say for school-age children, no initial screening is required, and that's because they usually get these at school. So, however, you want to have some sort of observation completed and shared with the family within 90 days. And they do give you some extra time on school age because they're not there all day, every day, like some of the little ones are. And again, another optional tool available to kind of track your observations, your assessments, your screenings, your conferences. Those are helpful for each classroom, maybe, to have one to just track each parent that they've spoken with. Okay, the next one is the environment rating scale. So after you've taken the appropriate trainings for this, then you're actually going to do the self-assessment on your program. So for every age group that you have, if you have infant toddler, you're going to do an ITERS. If you have preschool, ECHRS, and school age SACRS, if you're a family or group, you would do the FECRS. So you're going to complete the assessment on yourself. And again, this is where this doesn't have to be done by the director. It does, however, have to be done by somebody who's taken the appropriate training. So if you have a staff who attended the ITERS training with you, but they didn't attend the ECHRS training, then they can't do the ECHRS assessment, okay? But if they did attend, then they can certainly do the assessment. It doesn't always have to be the director who does it. And it does state that there that they, for us to accept the self-assessment, they have to have the appropriate training. There is a hot link here to click on to look at the PA position statements because, and you will learn this when you attend the trainings, is that the ERS is a national tool that's used. However, within Pennsylvania, we have some criteria that maybe go above and beyond some of the ERS indicators. So you always want to make sure that you have the additional PA position statements available that will show, the additional things that we would look for. So again, at a star 2, you are doing this on yourself. At a star 3 and a star 4, one of the ERS state assessors will come out and score your program. Okay, after you've scored yourself, you're going to look at the scores, and anything that's scored below a 3 is going to need an improvement plan. And this could just be something written up, and at our regional K, we have templates for this. That just says, what area did you score low in? It might have been hand washing. And then we want to know, how are you going to improve that? Are you going to give more training to your staff? Are you going to spend more time, with the toddler room on practicing hand washing? Are you going to teach them a song to sing while they're washing their hands? So, so just an improvement plan, and then you would have that saved with your assessment as documentation. Okay, any questions there? If I'm going too fast, please let me know. All right, the next one is we're in partnerships with family and community now. So at enrollment, families are provided with information regarding public, social, and community services. Again, this was a star 1 standard, so this should be something you're already doing at a star 1. We're just kind of re-verifying it again at a star 2. You want to, at a star 2 though, you want to have samples of what you're giving them. Okay, so most places will have like an enrollment packet handy to just show the STARS manager when they come. This is what we give parents when they come. We'll look through it and we'll write down all the information that you're giving them. The next one, again, this is something at a star 1. So the program collects child-centered information at enrollment to facilitate responsive care that is mindful of the needs of individual children and families. This used to be called the Getting to Know You form. So as you can see, there's the optional tool that says Getting to Know You Meeting Guide, and it just talks about, and it gives samples of, if you don't have a Getting to Know You meeting or a Getting to Know You form that you give to parents when you have a new child enrolled, then there's one there that you can use the template for. But it's really just, again, getting to, especially for your teachers who are working with the children, having them learn about the child before they actually even start care, and preparing to have that child integrate into that group. The second part of the standard is that a family meeting is offered within 45 days of enrollment to encourage partnership, share observations and goals for the child. Again, the documentation is that we're going to want to see that something was offered. If the parent doesn't attend, you could still meet that standard by just having them sign off on something that says it was offered, but they chose not to attend. But then you want to show how you're still sharing information with them. Are you just handing them a paper? Is it an email, a phone call? There's different ways that this can be done. Okay. The next one is a new standard for STAR 2. A minimum of once per year written information on topics such as health, human services, wellness, nutrition, and fitness, or child development is given and explained to families and staff. So at least once a year. Most programs do this more than once a year. A lot of programs already do this, but again, now you need to document it. So, when you give a parent information on nutrition or summer safety or whatever it might be that you're handing out, save a copy of it. Keep it with your STARS documentation and put a date on it, like the date you gave it. It might, summer safety you gave June 2013. Okay, so make a copy of it, put the date on it, and keep it with your STARS documentation. And then that standard has been met. Okay, like I said, most people give way more than is required because just, sharing information with parents. This could be through a newsletter. You might just have a little blurb in your newsletter on child development or, health and human services, whatever it might be. So save a copy of that newsletter. Okay, if you have a website, you might have something on your website, just print out that website page and put that with your STARS information. Okay. Next is if applicable to child. So if you have no children with IEPs or IFSPs, this standard wouldn't apply. But if you do, the standard is that you request from families copies of their IEPs or IFSPs, written plans or special needs assessments completed by professionals to inform classroom practice. There is an IEP, IFSP information sheet in the optional tools, and what most programs do is just print that out. They use that, and they keep, have the parents sign it right away and just put it in the child's file. So it just states, if the child does have an IEP or IFSP, the parent just checks the box, yes, I'll share a copy, or no, I will not share a copy, and they sign it and put it right in the file. And that's just, best practice, because if a child does have a plan in place, you want to make sure that, everybody in that child's life, teachers, parents, social workers, child care programs, all know the child's goals for developing and, are working towards helping that child. So that's kind of the reasoning behind that one. The next is individual child information is shared in written form with families on a daily basis for infants and toddlers. So again, this is something almost everybody does, is there's some sort of daily report or something that is written that is given to the parent at the end of the day that states, like, if you have an infant and toddler, what they ate, when they slept, diaper changes, that kind of thing. So to document that, you might have a blank copy of that in your STARS documentation, or the STARS manager, when they go to do your visit, might just walk around and see a couple of them being used in the classroom, is another way to document that. Okay, so that's for infants and toddlers. It has to be done on a daily basis, and it has to be in written form. And then the second part of that standard states that there is a format and procedure for use on an as-needed basis with other age groups. So how are you sharing information daily with preschool, or not daily, but just on an as-needed basis with preschool and school age? Some people might do weekly, monthly. They might have like a journal or something that they write notes in to the families back and forth, that kind of thing. So on an as-needed basis, how are you updating parents? Is it a newsletter? But it always has to be something, again, something written. Some people might do it through email, if you do email with your parents. Again, this is a standard that could be met different ways. So, we would take the individual centers into consideration. Okay, the next one is that specific group or classroom information is shared with families daily using a visual communication format. So the previous standard was for each individual child. This standard is saying for the group as a whole. So for all of your infants in your infant room, what is something daily that you're sharing with the parents that's visual? Same thing goes for your toddler room, your preschool room, your school age room. So every room that you have, you want to make sure that, and if you're a family, of course, you would just have one, but you want to make sure you're communicating something visually with them for that day. So some examples that I've seen in programs is every classroom might have a whiteboard outside their door. Some classrooms might have just a piece of construction paper that they write something different on every day and post it up there. It could be on the parent board for the classroom, or, it doesn't have to be elaborate. It just has to be something that is visual, is communicating something to the parents about the group, and it is changed daily. So some samples might be, today, we're going to go outside to look for butterflies. It could be something related to curriculum. It could be, good morning, it's Monday, hope everybody had a nice weekend. Just something pertaining to the group as a whole. Today we're going to practicing our ABCs, but it just has to be changed on a daily basis and pertain to the group as a whole, if that makes sense. Any questions there? Okay. Next is that one family conference is offered per year to discuss the child's progress and behavior, social and physical needs. And at the higher star levels, you would have conferences more often. Again, this is a standard that we see is usually happening anyway. Somewhere along the line, programs are already having family conferences. They're just maybe not documenting it. So again, we want to see that this is offered. A lot of times, and we know this is the case, it's really hard to get parents to come in for conferences. So we want to make sure that you're at least offering it. If they decline, have them sign off that it was offered to them and declined. And we want to see that you're sharing information with them on, maybe observations, their screenings, their assessments, that kind of thing. Okay. Next is on transitions. Again, this is another area that people have challenges with. So we can offer, again, 2-hour sessions just on transitions. The first one is that program provides general information to families regarding transitioning children to another classroom or educational setting. This was a Star 1 standard, so everybody should already be doing this. But in our regional key, again, we not only look for transitioning them from preschool to kindergarten, but within classrooms too. So if you have a child who's an infant moving up to the toddler room or a toddler moving up to the preschool room, what information are you giving the parents? Are you giving them, what to expect at, in this room? Do they need to be potty trained? Are they moving from a crib to a mat? What type of information are you giving them on that? Or if you have a school-age child who's transitioning out of your program and is going to stay home alone, are you providing the parent the home alone checklist? Little things like that. So we want to kind of see what information is being given to families regarding those transitions. So you would just have copies of the handouts that you give families. The next one is that the program transfers child's records at the request of the family when the child does transition to another education setting. So again, this is one that could be done different ways. There could just be a one-page sign-off form. It could be in your family handbook, a page, and as you can see under the standard, it says that you should have a policy addressing how you're going to transfer it in your personnel policy manual or your staff handbook. So staff need to know, how are you going to handle this when a parent asks if their child's records can be, are you going to keep the original, give them a copy, vice versa? Are you just going to hand over the whole file and not keep anything? Like, you have to figure out and make it part of your policies on how this is going to be handled. The second part is that there's a page in the family handbook that indicates that they're aware of the policy. So when you have your family handbook, there could just be a little blurb in there that states, you know, if your child's transitioning to another setting, what's the process for them? You know, do they need to go to the director, to the teacher? Do they have to have a written request? Can it be a verbal request? So they need to know that it's available and how they would go about doing that. There's a question that says, what kinds of things are transferred in what records? So it could be that, you know, there maybe their screenings, or, you know, copies of their IEPs, their health assessments, you know, so maybe they don't want to have to get things redone at the doctor's. You might have copies of their shot records, but the parent lost their copy, you know, so things like that, things that would be in the child's file. It could be, you know, their enrollment forms, developmental forms, if they have portfolios that the teachers keep on them, any record that you have while that child is there. Could be if the parent signs it out and wants copies transferred, you know, how is that going to happen? And again, within your policy, you would let the parent know, are you transferring it directly to the next place, the school or the next childcare, or are you handing it to the parent to transfer? Okay, that's all up to, we don't dictate how it's done. We just want to know that you have a policy on it and that parents are aware of the policy. Okay, so you guys would kind of decide what things are being transferred and how they're being transferred. Did that make sense, Deborah? I hope that helped to answer your question. Okay. Next is that the program includes age-appropriate activities for children to prepare for transitions. So some documentation we may look at are sample lesson plans. So you may have lesson plans in your preschool room that's getting them ready for kindergarten activities, you know, like lining up and writing their names, that kind of thing. So those are transition activities. You might also have transition or sample activities for, you know, toddlers moving to a preschool room. So again, there's different ways you can do this. You can have sample lesson plans to show documentation of how you're meeting the standard, or some people actually have like a packet of sample activities stapled together that they might give parents. Okay, and they just have that with their STARS documentation. So again, different ways to do this, but we just want to see that something's available to help children along in their transitions. The next one, program creates, with input from families, a list of community or school stakeholders regarding child transition. Again, there's an optional tool called What is a Stakeholder? And really a stakeholder is anybody in your community that would have like a vested interest in your program. And it gives some samples here. So your local Head Start, if you have any, a Learn committee, families, schools, or other resources in your community. Some programs will have you know, a list of schools, you know, in your district that you may have a connection with. So when you have children who are graduating preschool and getting ready to go to their school, obviously that school is going to have some sort of vested interest in your program because they're going to be getting the children that you move up and out of your program. It could also be, you know, your IU, or some people have on there community pediatricians, you know, just various different resources in your community that you can eventually work with and partner with. This standard at a STAR 2 is just you're getting a list of stakeholders. At higher STAR levels, you start partnering with those stakeholders. So you might send a letter to say, hey, you know, we're a child care program, you know, maybe we can partner and, you know, do something together, that kind of thing. But at a star 2, you're just kind of gathering the information. So you'd want to know who the stakeholders are. So it might be your uh, Head Start, IU, CCIS office, all of that, and then the contact information along with it. And then the second part of the standard is that we want to see that there's input from families. So families might know of community resources that you might not be available, that you might not be aware of. So they might know of, a dentist that specializes in children's teeth or children's oral health that could maybe partner with you down the road. So families really have a lot of input into this. So a way that you can make them aware of this is in your family handbook, and again, there's the optional tool available, family handbook topic areas. If you have a little blurb that says, here's our list of stakeholders, and if you have any suggestions, or would like to add any, let this person know, let the director know. But again, you just want to make sure that it's that you do give parents and families the opportunity to give their input into that. Okay. And I see we're running short on time, so I'm trying to get through this last part. We are on the last part, which is leadership and management. So again, this is a star 1 level where parents require, the standard requires that you give families and parents a handbook. And it used to be called the parent handbook, but now we know it's not always parents who are raising children, so that wording was changed to family handbook. And the optional tool available for that is the family handbook topic areas. It lists all of the areas that is best practice to have in your handbook. So, health practices, enrollment practices, transition practices, all of that is recommended. But again, not a requirement. It's an optional tool. So if you don't have some of the areas, that are on that list, it's okay as long as you have a family handbook. Okay. Next one is that you create a projected one-year operating budget, including a statement of income and expenditures. And what we're going to look for is your program budget, and that it is for the designation year. Okay. So for some of the notes, it says for a multi-site program. So, like if you have more than one site, we don't need to see a budget for every single specific site. It could be for the whole legal entity. The other one, a note states that there are courses available. We do have a lot of technical assistance and trainings that are required, not required, that are offered within our regional key. So you would check within your regional key to see if trainings and technical assistance is available for that. It does have a hot link there to get more information on budgets. You can click on those websites and visit that. One of the things that I've seen is, this doesn't have to be a major computer or software program that you're using. We will accept pen and paper budget. Okay. Again, that would be considered a good level. A better level might be that you maybe have a nice Excel spreadsheet or something that is showing your projected income and expenses. Or maybe at even a best level, you might purchase a child care software program that tracks your budget for you, gives you reports, lets you know where there's differences, if you're making money, losing money, that kind of thing. And there are different programs out there for that. So again, we just want to know that you know where your money's coming and going to. So we want to see a projected 1 year, so 1 year forward, what you're projecting your income and expenses to be. Okay, and then the second part, it says including a statement of income and expenditures. So, as you're going through the year, you might have projected that you're going to bring in $6,000 for that month, but maybe you really only brought in 4,000. So, you want to be able to show that along the way. Okay. Again, there's different ways. It can be anything from pencil and paper to purchasing nice software. But again, some people get nervous and saying, oh my gosh, I don't want, my stars person to see that I didn't pay this bill or we're behind on that bill. We don't look at that. We just want to know, again, that you know where your money's going, okay? Because that's just good business practice. All right. Next is along the same lines that a financial record keeping system for revenue and expenses is in place. So most people combine these two, and in addition with their projected budget, they just include the actuals. Okay. If you do have two separate forms, that's fine, but most people will just have both of these in one form, and then that covers two standards. But that's up to the program how they want to document that. We don't dictate how to do it. We just want to see that you are doing it. Okay, next one is that organizational structure and job descriptions are included in your personnel policy manual and shared with staff. So on here it says personnel policy manual, but you might call it a staff handbook. It doesn't matter either way. But again, like I pointed out in the optional tool earlier, there are job descriptions, samples available that you can use. And for every job description, you also need to have an organizational chart. And I will add that to send because we have sample organizational charts. So this needs to be in your staff handbook or personnel policy manual, that for new staff or old staff or whatever staff you have, that they know the chain of command essentially. So if you have an aide, who does the aide report to? They might report to the assistant group supervisor, who might report to the lead teacher, who might report to the director, who might report to the owner. So we want to see like a chart of your organization and the structure of it. Okay, so for every position listed on the organizational chart, there has to also be a job description matching it. So if you have a cook on your organizational chart, you would need to have a job description for that cook. Same thing if you have a bus driver. You need a job description for your bus driver. So just keep that in mind when you're making your organizational chart, that for every level you have on your chart, you also need to have a matching job description for. Okay? Questions on that? Okay. And we'll kind of tie back into this standard again towards the end, because there's another standard that kind of, if you do your documentation the right way, it might hit another standard at the same time with that. So I'll point that out when we get there. The next one is that you use documents for tracking illnesses and injuries, including plans of action to prevent further occurrences. So again, STAR 1 standard. And at a STAR 1, maybe some programs might just be keeping incident, accident, injury reports, and that's the way they're tracking it. Well, at a STAR 2 now, you're going to kind of build on that, and again, optional tool available, the Injury and Illness Tracking Guide. So not only are you just tracking illnesses and injuries, but you want to show how you're going to prevent further occurrences for those chronic happenings. If you have a case of head lice, and I hate to say that because I know everybody's head starts itching right away, but if you have a case of head lice and you just can't get rid of it, it moves from one classroom to another, you want to have some sort of action plan of how you're going to prevent this from continuing to occur. Same thing with pink eye. If you have a lot of children coming in with pink eye, what are you going to do to prevent it? Are you going to post notices to parents? Are you going to do more hand washing? Are you going to do more sanitation of, your toys and materials? So not only do you want to track what's happening, but prevent it as well. And the same goes for injuries. If you have, if you're looking through your programs injury reports and you see there's a lot of children getting hurt on a climber that's out on the playground, what are you going to do? Okay, so, are you going to inspect it, take it down, only have, children of a certain age play on it? So you want to have a plan of action in place to prevent anything else from happening. The next one is that you complete and provide an annual facility professional development plan. So the FPDP for short, that will come out, there will be a chance to complete this online, usually twice a year. And there's a window twice a year that opens. So, maybe for 2 or 3 months we'll say, now's the time to enter your FPDP. And what that is for every program, after you go through each of your professional development records for your staff, you're going to kind of get an idea of your staff's training needs for the upcoming year. And the FPDP is where you're going to enter that information. So if you have 10 staff who need health and safety this year, do you have 3 staff who want to get their CDA? Do you have, do you want to get your director credential? Do you want more college courses? Do you want more this or that? This is how you're going to let us know. So what happens though is, depending on when the time of year that you're designated at a STAR 2, you might not have met the window to do this yet. So that's okay. If you haven't done this, what we'll just say is, okay, well, we'll give you an action plan, and then for the next window that opens up, we'll just let you know. You can go in and enter it then. Okay? And then, just a really good hint, what you want to do, a lot of people forget to do this, is after you enter it online, you want to make sure that you print it. Otherwise, we won't know you completed it as a STARS manager, because that information goes higher than us, I guess. Okay, so you want to always print a copy and then just keep that with your STARS documentation. Okay, next one is that you complete a system of site safety review. This could also be known as your health and safety checklist. And there, again, we don't tell you which one you have to use, but there's a really good one. It's called the Health and Safety Checklist, and that's found in the book called Model Child Care Health Policies, or Healthy Young Children. You can use any one that you want. If you already have a pre-existing tool, you can use that one. However, whatever tool you use, whatever the tool says is the recommended time frame for completing it is what you should follow. In other words, if you're using a health and safety checklist that says this tool should be completed monthly, then we expect you to be completing that monthly. Okay? If you use one that says quarterly, then you can use it quarterly. Okay? If the tool doesn't specify, then we expect you to use it at least quarterly or seasonally. And again, you want to make sure you keep copies of it and put a date on it of when it was completed. Okay? All right. Next one is at a STAR 1, you only needed to have a staff meeting every 6 months. At a STAR 2, now you're going to start having staff meetings monthly. It tells you that the staff meeting must include discussions of quality and its impact on the learning program. So somewhere along the lines you want to talk about CQI. You can talk about moving up in Keystone Stars. You can talk about professional development that they need. You talk about strategies for supervising children. But what we're going to look for is the agenda. So you want to give staff an agenda that so they kind of know what to expect, what's going to be talked about and discussed at the meeting. Then you want to have sign-in sheets for the staff. Each staff should need to sign in to show that they attended, and you want to have minutes. This doesn't mean the minutes that they were there, like the time. Some people send us the time frames, like our minutes were from 6 to 7 at night. Minutes are actual written documentation of what was discussed at the meeting. So you want to have somebody taking notes, and we don't recommend it's the director or the person giving the staff meeting. It's usually helpful if somebody else is doing it. So you want to have somebody just taking notes of what was discussed, the conclusions that were reached and that kind of thing. And then save those. And we will look, again, our key, we'll look at the last 3 months. We need to see at least 3 months in a row that this was done. Okay? Next is that, oh, I'm sorry, I see a question. Deborah is asking about the health and safety checklist. Does this need to be something official or something homemade? Let me see what this is. System of site safety review, including strategies for supervising children and corresponding plan of action are instituted. It doesn't state, it just says that the health and safety checklist is the recommended one. However, other tools may be appropriate for your facility. But it does state that if you do use a homemade one, you should have strategies for supervising children somewhere in there. So, somewhere in the checklist it should state, are the staff aware of proper child ratios, or playground equipment, how safe is your outdoor playground equipment. And then it also should have a corresponding plan of action. So if you do find something on your health and safety checklist that isn't good, if there's splinters coming out of your wood climber on the playground, there should be some sort of plan of action that you can use with that. And again, that could be homemade, just something that says we're going to, make this unavailable to children until it can get fixed. We're going to pull it out, put in a new one, but just some sort of plan for fixing any of your findings. Okay. Okay. Next is director develops and annually implements a plan for sharing information about Keystone Star's continuous quality improvement, strategies for supervising children, and professional development with staff. Again, this was a Star 1 standard. The optional tool available is Talking Points for Directors. And we're going to look to see, and again, if you do your staff meetings the right way, then this standard will be met by you doing all of this in your staff meetings. So we want to see that you have a plan for sharing this information and that it's done on an annual basis. Okay. Again, that was a Star 1 standard, so everybody's probably already doing that. The next one is that now at a Star 2, you're using that plan to meet with each staff member. And for new staff, the meeting's held within 90 days. So usually when you bring in a new employee and do new employee orientation, you want to talk to them within the 90 days of them being there about STARS, continuous quality improvement, what's the expectation for their professional development, and that kind of thing. Okay. And last two, we're on the home stretch, guys. The next one is list of all staff by position, salary, and tenure. And this is the one I was talking about. We can refer back to the job descriptions and organizational chart, because I've seen programs on their organizational chart will put this, so they're hitting 2 standards with 1 document, and that's okay. It's okay to do it separate too. But this is a list of your positions. So again, we don't want names of staff. We just want their position titles. So you'd have director, lead teacher, assistant teacher, aide, cook, bus driver, whatever. And then their salaries. Now the salaries should be a range or like a sliding scale. And along with that, tenure. So for example, you might say, an aide, the position of an aide can make anywhere from, I don't know what minimum wage is, let's just say $7.25 to $8.25. Okay, so that's a range. An assistant teacher might make anywhere from $8.25 to $9.25. Higher for lead teacher, higher for director. And you might put the statement in that it's based on tenure. So it's based on how long they're there, and it could be based on educational experience. If they have a degree, if they don't have a good degree, you're going to pay more. And again, this needs to be in your personnel policy handbook or employee handbook, whatever you refer to it as. But again, there needs to be a salary range. And the intent behind this standard is that if I'm an aide coming in as a new employee, I can kind of see I might be starting out at 625, but I know maybe within a year or, by the time I get all my training in, I might be able to make, 25 cents more or whatever it might be. Then I also know, what are my goals? Maybe I want to move up to be a lead teacher someday. Oh, this is how much I can make as a lead teacher, and this is the degree I need to get so I can be a lead teacher. So it kind of gives staff, you know, so then they can start to plan their professional goals as well. But that needs to be available to all staff, and that's why you don't want to use names, okay? You just want to use positions and always have a scale because you really don't want people knowing exactly how much everybody else makes. So always have a range. A low range, this is the minimum amount you can make in this position, and this is the highest amount you can make in this position. And finally, the last one is that 2 employee benefits are given to staff. Okay, and this is usually in your employee handbook, and staff may be interviewed to see what those benefits are. This one is listed in page 28 of the worksheet. So it says the employee benefits that are accepted by Keystone Stars. So some of them are annual incremental raises. Do you give your staff a raise every year? At least 5 days of paid sick leave, at least 5 days of paid vacation, at least 5 paid holidays. You can offer tuition reimbursement, child care benefit. Honestly, that's the one we probably see the most. Paid family leave. Do you pay a percentage of their insurance? Or you can give them a financial retirement plan. Now, all employees, all your staff have to, whether they're full-time or part-time, have to be offered 2 of these benefits. That's not to say that they can't be prorated. Okay, so your full-time staff might get 5 days of paid vacation a year, where your part-time staff might only get 2.5 days of paid vacation a year. Okay, but all staff are being offered 2 employee benefits, but they might be prorated within that. Now, a lot of these benefits, a lot of times we see once you get a grant, we see a lot of requests for the grant funds to help pay for this. And because this is something that you're offering above and beyond what you would normally offer because you're in Keystone Stars, then that makes that an acceptable fundable grant expense. Okay, but within that we would need a lot of details on the grant application. What 5 paid holidays are you given? Who are you giving them to? And how much are you paying an hour for? So you can request this on your grant application, but we would need a lot of follow-up documentation for that as well. But just so you know that is available. So again, like I did say, a lot of the ones that we see are the child care benefit because most programs aren't really putting out a lot of additional money for that. They're just kind of taking a loss on having child care. And a question we get a lot on this is if a staff doesn't have children and you're offering that benefit, does it count? And the answer to that would be yes, because you're still offering the benefit. So that would count as 1. But if they don't have children to get or they're not using the child care benefit, it doesn't matter. You're still offering that as a benefit. Okay. So that was the end of that worksheet. Okay, we have a question. Somebody says, I've worded the vacation days that a staff member can have paid vacation equal to the amount of days they work in a week. So if they only work 1 day a week, they get 1 paid vacation day. Is that okay? For the full-time staff, let me just scroll back to what the standard says. Benefits for part-time staff may be prorated to be commensurate with the number of hours they work. So then that would be what you stated would be okay for a part-time staff. But for full-time staff, they would have to follow, I missed it. They would have to follow this here. So where it says at least 5 days of paid vacation, and that's per year. So as long as, if you're doing that, as long as you're still getting 5 paid days a year, then that would meet that standard. Did that make sense, Deborah? That's a good question. Thank you for that. Okay. So now that we've actually gone a little bit over, and I apologize for that. But if anybody has any additional questions, I will stay on for a couple more minutes, and if you would if you know you're within the Northeast region, if you would let me know what more do you need to help you meet those standards that we went over. So if you need, do you want a session on transitions? We can plan that for sure. If you want more training in health and safety, let us know. If you need a consultant, and we have free technical assistance consultants who come out and help you meet these standards. So if you need help writing an employee handbook, somebody will come out for free and help you do that. You just need to let us know. You know, we have all these resources and supports available to help you guys meet your goals in the STAR standards. So we just want to make sure you know that they're available. And I will, after we're done here, I will send out a follow-up email to everybody that has all of the additional documents that I said I would send out. And in there will be an evaluation. So if you can just complete the evaluation and send that back to me, I'd appreciate it, so we know what we're doing right, what we can improve on. Within these webinars, if the webinar was helpful, you know, if you need something different next time, just let us know. So again, I'm sorry for taking up more than 2 hours of your time today, but I really appreciate everybody staying and participating, and hopefully it was helpful to you guys. Again, if you have any questions, you can contact me. If you're not within my region, I can certainly try to help you, but I would really recommend that you would speak with your STAR specialists in your regional county. So again, thank you guys. Thank you so much for everything you do, and I wish you the best of luck in moving up in STARS. And I know everybody can do it. You just need to show how you're documenting things. Okay? So enjoy the rest of your afternoon. And like I said, you can expect a follow-up email from me later on. So I'm going to end the webinar and hopefully hear back from you when it comes to the evaluations. So thanks, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.